winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this.
But the whistle goes now. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. With me on the Sutton podcast, we have Dan from Gandemonium, Sutton United supporter, we have Matt from Leyton Orient, and we have Craig from Mansfield Town. As usual, if you want to comment, you can follow me on any of the socials, which is @podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and unbelievably TikTok. Also, you can send me an email, which is suttonpodcast@gmail.com. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get on with the show.
Joining me now is my next guest, Dan. He is the editor-in-chief of Gandemonium, but I'll let you tell everyone about it yourself. Dan, basically, who are you?
Well, as you said, my name's Dan. A lot of people at Sutton know me as Taz as well because of the long-running blog that we do, Gandemonium, which is just basically an incredibly childish matchday view from us of the travails, and far too much alcohol on home and mostly away games. Been coming since about 83, so been around a while, seen a few things. I can't think of anything else to add there.
I'd say most people kind of know you anyway, but most people listening. Here is the joke I've been working on all week. It's called Gandemonium, but more recently it's Dandemonium.
Yeah, it has been a bit like that this season. It's just...
I can actually feel my daughter's eyes rolling in the other room. I can literally feel her go, "Oh, for fuck's sake, don't."
If there was video, you could have added some tumbleweed and everything there, mate.
But yeah, it's been a bit man down.
Yeah, it's been a bit, back on my jack again. It's like the old days when I first started it in 98, when pretty much I did about 95% of it. Yeah, this year, because Tots is obviously sort of has his retirement pending, so he's in the middle of a big move to the south coast. And Dukey's he's got himself a new job and he's kind of engaged. He's got a kid now over lockdown. You know, he's probably the most busy over lockdown. And yes, he's got other commitments at the moment, so he's trying to just kind of get that all settled as well. So it's just me holding the fort, and the boys chipping in as and when they have a gap and trying to drag in waifs and strays like your good self to fill in where we can.
Well, mine was actually supposed to be a draft, and if it's crap, we can put that to bed and know it's not going to happen. As anyone who's read it can see, that they clearly don't have that higher standards. So
Nope.
Just fire it across to Dan, and he can use it or not use it, and you can audition.
Yeah. If we do put a plea out, it's usually on Twitter, because if just for the Wimbledon game, I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it because of work, and I wasn't going to get back in time. So it was a case of, we'll just sack it off because it's Pizza Cup and no one really cares about that. But I thought, I'll ask, see if we can get someone else involved. So yeah, if people do see that plea for help, feel free, drop us a line, send it over. You don't have to be a complete drunkard to do it. You just have to not take it entirely too seriously.
No.
That's kind of the one main criteria we have, really.
Well, my Mrs. Sally said she read it and she goes, "You've come across as a right miserable git." I stood there blinking and staring at her for a little while, going, "We've been together for 28 years. Surely you know this by now. Come on."
You married me, love.
You knew that. She says, "Yes, I know, but not everyone has to know it." And I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure most people do." But no, it's a good laugh. Nice to ham it up a little bit. But let's have a little chat about the Tranmere game. Another one. I spoke briefly about Tranmere last week, to anyone who did suffer through the terrible sound from last week. They were one of the ex-league teams that we seem to get on with.
Yeah.
They weren't the bitter ex-league teams of La Bastard League.
Yeah.
But how was the game? I know you didn't get into the glamping tent, but how was?
Yeah, sadly the transport getting over there was a pain in the backside. So it was first half wasn't great. I mean, both sides. We had a feeling that it was going to be a tough game because obviously they don't concede many, but they don't score many. And Matt was obviously trying to get us back to being a bit more watertight at the back. We'd let a few goals in lately, so we knew it was going to be a tight one. First half was a bit of a non-starter really. I think the only thing that probably happened was Will's header off the post. David had a couple of decent little darts, but didn't come to much. So it was first half wasn't great, but second half we came out with a lot more purpose and a lot more. We just had a little bit more life about us, the goal we probably deserved the win because we created 3 or 4 decent chances, but it was one of them games you were watching and you were thinking, this is probably going to finish 0-0. We'll have been the marginally a better side, but it's going to finish 0-0. And then Tanto robs the lad, and he was dawdling on the edge of his own box, and it's 1-0. And after that, probably Kobe had one off the line before that, and then after that, Donovan was unlucky to not get clear from the halfway line, so could have had 1 or 2 more as well. Yeah. So it was a good performance. And last 10 minutes, we looked a little leggy in places, but the lads really, really dug in. And after that, they didn't really look like they were going to score. They had loads of the ball, putting loads of balls into the box, but the boys threw their bodies in the way, winning headers, and got it done. Just got the job done.
Yeah, I mean, the goal itself was not just reward for Tants there. I mean, the forwards have been doing that all season, chasing down, and it's good to see a reward all of a sudden from it. Hopefully other teams, well, not hopefully, but other teams may now think, we're not going to pass it around the back and then just get rid of it as quickly as possible for us to win it in midfield or
it's when you're pressing like that. I mean, because when I used to play Sunday football, I used to play the same way because I was quick. That's really was my one talent. So I was doing Tanto's job of just chasing down like a complete lunatic up front. And it's hard work because it's constant high tempo, and also you don't generally get a lot of reward for that kind of, personally anyway.
Yeah.
You'll occasionally get one like Tanto did on Saturday, or the keeper will cock one up, or it's someone else gets the rewards of your hard work. You harry someone, they sod up their clearance and someone else scores from it. So it can be a bit of a thankless task up front doing what Tanto does. So it was nice for him to actually get some direct reward for the graft that he puts in.
Well, I very much liked it because I was a bit eager, and I managed to get hold of the clip, and I joined TikTok, which is, again, I can feel the eyes rolling from here because it's apparently cringe.
Even we've not joined TikTok.
And then she said, "Don't tell people you're on TikTok because all old people will join." I'm all right. I'm telling everyone now. I'll ruin TikTok for you. I love her really, but I then sort of copied it and did a little goal, and then it's had quite a few views and all sorts of things on Twitter because I copied it into Twitter as well. And then all of a sudden I've kind of had this panic moment of, I shouldn't have actually done that because that quite blatantly says Sky TV in the middle. But when Sky TV contact me and tell me to take it down, I'm sure I will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's down to them to notice.
Well, it's advertising Sky TV, surely.
Yeah,
free advertising.
It's the way we usually see it when we, make use of other sources, shall we say?
But on the fans, I mean, there's a couple of tweets that caught my eye. One was a good one where a guy had been on the train with the Sutton players and some of the fans on the way back to London.
Yeah,
and it shows the togetherness of this squad when the whole team, the club, when the players were going through the concourse and the fans were serenading them. I know that wasn't you guys because you'd stayed at the night.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to see that other clubs are starting to kind of realise this isn't a team doing well. It's a whole club. It's a whole togetherness from top to
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah. I think that's a fair assessment at the minute. You know, everyone's kind of just sticking at it and just backing everybody. So, and that's it's. But then again, I mean, they're fairly clued up, the Tranmere lot. We got, like as you said earlier, we got on well with them in the National League, and I think they, as I said on the blog from the weekend, they seem to get it a bit more than a lot of ex-league sides do.
They got the idea of we're here because we deserve to be here. Not is everyone else's fault in the world and
exactly, yeah.
And there was another one who, I think if you'd read it a different way, it was along the lines of, I've had enough of the Sutton fans. Not only are they got crack on social media, they're really nice people in person. And I was like, cool, someone else reading that might not realise the sarcasm emoji needs to be on there. But again, that was another chap who clearly had met a few people and enjoyed the company. I know there was another one called Harry something, really looking forward to making acquaintances, which is really nice, rather than some of the clubs getting a bit stroppy with us. Talking of which, we're off to Leyton Orient.
Oh, nice link.
That was a good little segue.
Segued that beautifully.
It's been an interesting place for us. I can't remember if it was the same year that Nicky had an altercation and Tommy was injured, or if there were two separate matches, because I think it was two separate matches.
I don't remember actually. I think they might have been the same year.
Oh, were they?
Because we got stuffed the first time we went there. When we were top as well, brilliantly. And I think, because Tommy got injured in the 1-0 win that Jonah Unga scored the goal. Yeah. And they took massive exception to the fact that we dared to compete with them in their own backyard. And of course, the players went in the bar in the hospitality afterwards, and someone threw a drink over Nicky Bailey. It's like, behave, lads, grow up.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts on the game? What do you think it was going to this time?
Again, it's going to be another tough one. They're all difficult at the moment. We're only starting to really see a couple of sides kind of in really bad form. I mean, Stevenage are in awful form at the minute. Scunthorpe are terrible. I mean, even Oldham have managed to pick some points up lately. So there's only a couple of sides in the division at the moment who are terrible, and we're playing none of them. It's just Orient are going well. The lad we had on loan a while back, Aaron Dryan, and he seems to have slotted in really well there. Seems to have found himself a little home now. Somewhere where he can.
Because when he was with us, he was cold and hot, and warm, not even hot.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, when he was on loan with us, you could see he had ability, but I don't know whether it was he was maybe still a year. It was a year too early for him, or it was just the fact that he just hadn't really played any football at Ipswich. It took him a while to get going. He's a lovely lad. I mean, we spoke to him at length after the Harrogate game that season. So really nice fella.
Certainly settled.
But yeah, he seems to have found himself a little spot where he can flourish, and people are supporting him, backing him, and he's banging goals in for them. So fair play to the boy, but hopefully he doesn't have too good a game.
He's almost
on Saturday.
Nailed on to score.
I mean, it's. I think we've got a terrible ratio for former players against us. So yeah, I'm fully expecting him to bag one. I don't know how it will go. I suppose it's again down to, let's be honest, have they hated us under Doz and a bit of graft we put in that time we won up there? They're going to absolutely despise this team.
Hoofball.
Yeah. Oh, you're just typical non-league.
Well, they can't say it's the pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They can't blame the surface. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be another tough one. It's another place that if we get a point up there, perfectly happy with that.
Yeah.
Keep the points total ticking over. Keep heading towards 50 and see where we are when we get there.
And it's close enough for me because I'll be going as well. Yay! It's just a couple of tubes.
Yep.
And then on Tuesday we have Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't doing so great, but they've actually put together a nice little group of four wins in a row. I know two of them were cup wins, but they've kind of played themselves into a little bit of form, which is kind of what you were saying, that their team's suddenly doing well. They've beaten Sunderland in the Cup. They beat Stevenage, I think it was, and I know they beat Newcastle with under 21s in the Cup. But the gentleman I spoke to told me they were both out already by that stage, so they didn't really care about that. But, yeah, we've got them on Tuesday at home. How do you feel that one's going to
go? Got to hope that the decent home form we've had pays off there. I mean, but then again, I mean, I think the Stevenage, but they were both away, weren't they? Sunderland and Stevenage, the wins. So that's probably a bit of a worry. Tough to say. I mean, like you say, they've not been great since pretty much all season so far, and then suddenly have had a little spurt in the last week or two. So hard to call. Hopefully we'll keep the good home form going and pick up 3 points there. Try and keep it Fortress going to Green Lane, get a win, and keep the points ticking over.
Well, hopefully I'll put the mockers on them, because I did say they'll get the 3 points because they're playing Scunthorpe at the weekend, and the guy was not very happy with that.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
So what I like to do now is get you to think about your good, bad and the ugly of the week. I'm just going to play the thing, but I need to tell you, last time I played it for someone, it was really, really loud, so bear with. Hopefully I've sorted that out, but me and this technology stuff ain't great, but
ain't gelling yet,
yeah,
ain't gelled yet,
but we'll see if I've done it. Right, that wasn't as bad as it was.
that was manageable. That's good.
I think I nearly killed Frakey's ears. But what do you think of a good, bad, and ugly for the week?
What do you mean? The week coming or the week past?
Week gone. Do you know what? We can make it up as we go along. I don't really
care.
Yeah, well, no,
we're winging this.
I'm flexible. I think is just to let anyone who's planning weddings in the near future, that phrase of "I don't care" is not well received. Saying you're flexible is a far, far nicer way and less likely to get you punched in the face.
By a good lady. Good, bad, and the ugly. Good. I suppose the good is can actually have a lie-in on Saturday. Don't have, because it's Orient. I don't have to be getting up at God knows what o'clock just to get up to bloody Euston to get a train somewhere up north. That's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to make that the good.
Yeah.
Bad. What's going to be the bad this week?
You can have last week, whatever you want. See, this is why I'm not sure, everyone, if I'm going to stick with this. It is two negatives that we're focusing on, and I don't like that. I like to be as positive as miserable as I am. I like to be as positive as possible. I can be a positive, miserable git.
Bad. What can we go for bad?
No, we'll skip it. There's nothing bad happened this week. You had to get up early on.
Actually, yeah, the bad. It's been a decent week. We've got 3 wins in a row. It's. I can't think of anything bad.
The sound quality on my pod last week will do that.
All right, I'll take that one for you, mate. Yeah. That's not mine, but that's for you. Just so we can fill the category. Ugly. I don't know if we get any sort of result at Orient on Saturday. Their comments maybe. So they loved us before. So yeah, like I said earlier, if they thought Doz's team was shithouse tastic, wait till they get a load of this lot.
It's brilliant. We love it.
All a foot taller.
Yeah, strong.
And big, strong, ugly, and work twice as hard.
Yeah, and I mean we've been really lucky over the last 10, 12 years. We've had a lot of teams that show a lot of togetherness, but there's something about this lot. You kind of just think they would literally go into the trenches, and you're like,
yeah, they're proper bunch. They're a good unit. And even when we have lads missing, everybody digs in for each other, and they just get the job done. So yeah, we'll make that the ugly.
Yeah.
With the caveat of if we get a result on Saturday of any sort.
when you get a result.
Oh, yeah, you go with the positivity again.
Yeah, I mean, on the togetherness, I'm going to be making Twitter like my main source, but there was a good one from Louis John. There was Joe and Kobe got into the team of the week.
Yeah.
And Louis John's tweeted, "Oh look, calf wins."
Yeah, I saw that calf chef wins. Yeah.
And I was like, "Hang on, this is the central defender who's kind of keeping you out of the side, and you're taking the piss, just as we would. Well, when I say we would, other people playing Sunday football would, not me.
Yeah.
Because my one bit of running around up front on the football was five-a-side, and Paul, the photographer, was in goal. And when I came on, Paul's instructions to me were, Mike, stand in front of the keeper and see if you can block his view. That was the tactical nous he gave me.
Hey, there you go. That's a key position.
He wasn't wrong. No, he didn't want me to goal hang. He just wanted me to block the view. We were playing with 4 players.
Block his line of sight.
That's literally all it was. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Saturday and a cold Tuesday.
It should be a good day out. Like I say, bit of a lie-in. It's fairly near. It's probably about our second nearest, I think, if not our nearest. Crawley. I don't know how far between the differences between there and Crawley. So yeah, out in London, a few beers. So it's a good old ground. We'll have probably 400 or so up there, I would have thought. So there'll be a
guy from work coming with me as well. So
yeah, there'll be a good following. So it should be a good day out, if nothing else.
Bit of a
good laugh. Yeah.
Hey, we said that together. Planned it. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Another little plug for anyone who hasn't read it, which is unlikely. For Gandemonium, I won't do my wonderful joke again. It was a good one. If you missed it, then you'll have to go back. But yeah, good little plug for Gandemonium. Have a read, follow them on Twitter, because they are very, very funny guys. As opposed to
and if people don't like words, we have Instagram as well, so we do pictures.
Well, you should. I'll tell you, you need to get on this TikTok business. You can film people.
I think TikTok. I mean, actually, think that's the kind of one of the reasons why everyone said to us at the start of the season, "You boys should do a podcast." It's like got no time to do that, just because at the moment, because of, like I said earlier, it's just me, all the editing, all the fanning around, and I said, and also with this lot, you just don't want them saying things that are recorded, because you're just going to get in trouble.
Using evidence against you.
Exactly.
It's a very well-known phrase.
Yeah, it's you don't want them saying things that are recorded and not easily deleted.
Christ. If the stuff that makes the blog is the stuff you feel you can repeat, what is the stuff that's not?
This is the thing. Everyone says, it's funny and entertaining, and God, how do you come up with it all? And it's like you really have to spend a Saturday kind of just traipsing around the pubs with us on an away day, just to see what actually the silliness that goes on. I mean, some of the stuff, the chatter on the train up on Saturday and in the first pub or two. I mean, there was stuff there, and afterwards as well. There was just stuff that I either can't make it work just in the context of sort of flow and things like that, and also certain things people don't want in print. Yeah, if we can just put it that way diplomatically. So yeah, it's
it's a massive talent that you got. I know you're going to dismiss it, but to remember some of the conversations.
I take notes. Notes. When someone says something stupid or does something dumb, I make a note. I've got my notes on my phone. I make a note, just like just one-liners, just so I can sit down on a Sunday, read through them, and just refresh my memory. And that's where the titles come from. Just generally, someone says something idiotic. That's the title this week was an insult aimed at someone within the group and their genitalia. So that's the kind of juvenile level that we do often sink to. So yeah, that's what it is. But yeah, the stuff that gets left out, it's just it either doesn't work or it doesn't need to be public.
Well, you'll like this comparison. John Sullivan, the guy who used to do wrote Only Fools and Horses. Someone I know was in like his outer social circles, so not like his inner close friends, but they used to go to several places. And they said it used to be quite frightening because you'd be sitting there talking and chatting away, and then all of a sudden he'd reach into his pocket and take out his notebook, and everyone around the table would be like, "What did I just say? What did I just say? Oh God, oh God, oh God, what's he going to do? What's he going to do?" And that's apparently why, because Only Fools was so great, because he literally just took those real life stories and said, "Okay, I'm going to go with that and make that." And that's what people actually do and say. But this guy was like the panic on people's faces when they were trying to remember what. Shit, am I going to see what's up on telly?
That's the one bonus. I don't get the panic. I just get because everyone knows what they're getting themselves into. If you're on with us lot on an away day, you're fair game. Everyone has to understand that. So yeah, all I get is the bollocks, I dropped myself in it there, rather than panic. When the phone comes out and the note starts going in.
I'll wave at you guys from the next carriage. I'm not coming with you. Right, excellent. Thank you very much, Dan. That was brilliant.
Anytime, mate. Anytime.
And I will see you Saturday and Tuesday.
Yep, definitely see you Saturday.
Yeah, good. Oh, you're slacking off Tuesday, are you?
No, I'll be there Tuesday. I've got to, because we've actually ended up with a couple of that fan hub thing. We've ended up actually with a couple of spare tickets through that. Yeah. So we're probably just going to give them away on social media for people. Anyone who can't afford to go or isn't able to, we'll give them away and get them out there.
With some tickets as well. I'm kind of stuck on because I said to them, I assume I can give these away, and they were like, "Well, not really. It's got to be under your name." And I was like, "Well, that's a bit stupid. I've got a season ticket." So he kind of basically said, "What we don't know won't hurt us."
Yeah, exactly.
But they got to be used by end of December, which I thought was a bit odd. But yeah, we got Harrogate on the 18th. So
yeah, I think I ended up with 2 sets, so I'll probably give another set away on that as well.
Excellent.
So there you go, folks. If you're listening, you can't afford to go to the Mansfield game on Tuesday. Keep an eye on Gandemonium on Twitter. We'll be giving away 2 free tickets for that
Excellent.
game.
Wonderful. On that wonderful positive note, see, positive everywhere. I will sign off. Thanks a lot, Dan. See you soon.
See you Saturday, mate.
Cheers. Bye. And joining me now is my next guest, Matt, who is a Leyton Orient supporter for the last decade or two. Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Mike.
No problem at all. So, wanted to talk about the game, first of all, the season so far, which has been going okay with one of our old boys on absolute fire for you. How's it been for you? I know you had some tweets at the weekend. You were a bit frustrated with one of the games, but how's it been overall?
We're always frustrated as Orient fans. Our sort of natural resting state is to be mildly shit. We're very rarely catastrophically bad, although sometimes, but we're very rarely any good. We're just sort of all right most of the time. That's how this season's panning out. I swear it's all completely predictable to us. But one of the positives, as you say, is Aaron Drinan, or Drinan, I should say. We were all pronouncing his name wrong until last week.
So will we.
Yeah, no worries. But he's doing really well for us, actually. He's the man of the moment. I think he's scored 4 goals in his last couple of games. He's got 7 in the league, a couple more in the cup during the season. He's a really good finisher, which we do rarely see at Leyton Orient. So that is a pleasure to us. And he's getting himself into good positions, getting himself about a bit in the game. So yeah, he's definitely been one of the highlights.
Yeah, when he was with us, it was a few years ago now. There were kind of glimpses, but it didn't quite work for him. Whether it was just a little bit too early or just needed to go and learn his craft a little bit. But there was definitely, you could see there was something. I'm not even going to look at the odds on him scoring against us on Saturday because I just know he's going to score. But yeah, you're 9th. I think we're 8th, you're 9th. So it should be another close, interesting game. Any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, you'll definitely win because this is exactly the type of game that Orient lose. So our last league home game, we won 5-0. And we rarely follow up a good victory at home with another victory. So if you were thinking about betting, I would back your team. And it's probably a consequence of our inconsistency this season, which is where the frustration you mentioned is coming from a little bit, because we can be really good. So when we beat Hartlepool 5-0, really it was an all-round brilliant performance from 1 to 11 across the team and really gave us a lot of hope that we could challenge for promotion this season. Yeah, there have been countless other games, particularly games where we should have won, where we dominated possession. Yeah, I've managed to throw it away and gift points to the opposition. Has just happened too many times. And that happened on Saturday against Rochdale, actually, where we really did dominate. We were 2-1 up with a minute to go, and unfortunately let in a shoddy equaliser. Even worse than that, last month we were 2-1 up with, I think, less than a minute to go, and we managed to somehow contrive to lose 3-2 to Port Vale. So those are the sort of inconsistencies and our inability to close out games that are causing us a bit of frustration at the moment.
We've had a bit of a roller coaster from that. We almost had our first league win against Oldham at home, and did very similar. We were 1-0 up and then just started dropping back and panicking, and they scored 2 goals in the last 2.5 minutes or something like that. And that was Oldham, and they were awful at the time, so we were really like, yay. Then we had the other side of the coin against Port Vale. We went 2-0 down very, very quickly, and came back to 2-2, and they scored again. Your heads are gonna drop. You've just come back from 2-0 down, and they've gone 3-2 up. And this group of players that we've got, who just their heads did not drop. They went equalised and then scored with the last kick of the game. So we've had the flip sides with both, and our manager's quite pragmatic with saying some are gonna go for you, some aren't. But perhaps we're kind of not in the same mood because we are the highest we've ever been. So we're kind of riding this lovely journey. Whereas I know from my own childhood, Leyton Orient is always one of those clubs that people almost, I don't understand it because they're not exactly low non-league club. I know you were out of the league for a little while, but yeah, always growing up as old Leyton Orient, rubbish. We're playing like Leyton Orient. It's like, they're not doing that bad actually, and but it was one of the few clubs. When I was growing up, all my uncles used to support different London teams, and Leyton Orient wasn't even on the radar for anyone. It was all QPR, West Ham, Chelsea. But I did want to say, and I know you've written a book about the Leyton Orient legends, and you're very nice to mention the one Leyton Orient player that I kind of knew. My dad was friends with Tony Grealish, who used to play for you back in the late 70s, I think.
He did.
Yeah. And I know he was in your book as well as some other very good players.
Yeah, he was before my time, but my dad and sort of many people who had the pleasure of watching Orient in the 70s when we were a much better side, really, really highly regard Tony Grealish. He was a real character. He was the sort of bulwark of our midfield at the time and was part of our 1978 FA Cup semi-final team, which was the furthest Orient have ever got in the competition. And just a real character, loads of great stories. It was a real pleasure to talk to him for the book, actually, and he really did tell it how it was. So yeah, he's very highly regarded at Orient.
Well, I knew him from, my dad was a friend, as I say, they used to play Gaelic football together. I think I mentioned to you earlier that they played under different names because Tony wasn't really supposed to play Gaelic football because he was playing professional soccer, and my dad wasn't supposed to be playing at all. But they had some great times. I remember them basically in the pub in Kilburn where I grew up, and I was a young boy. I was 9 or 10, and I was playing my Panini stickers and opening up my packets, and there's Tony sitting there in a West Brom kit, and I'm looking at him going, "What on earth are you doing?" And people told me great glee that he was a professional footballer. And he offered to sign the card, and I absolutely refused because I didn't want him ruining my album and writing all over it, which obviously everyone found hilarious because he'd actually that was the year I think he captained Brighton in the FA Cup final. So there's my little tiny claim to fame. I refused an autograph.
That's a big claim to fame if you're an Orient fan. So, yeah.
But also this part I didn't quite believe, and I have to say, there were bits of the stories that don't make sense. But apparently, one of your other great players, Laurie Cunningham, used to join them, not for Gaelic football, that would have been quite obvious, even in London Irish, but they used to join them on sort of times out, and again, too young to realise, but when you start looking back and seeing some of the videos and knowing what we know of what the players went through, he was just a class player for you, wasn't he?
Yeah, and again, and watching again before my time, but watching some clips of Laurie Cunningham playing, and one of the things that really stands out is the state of the pitches in the 70s. Like, it's absolutely shocking, just complete like mud quagmires. Yeah, this young, I think he was 17 when he started playing for us, like with lightning pace, just like dribbling round teams, and the skills that he had on the pitches like that were quite incredible. So yeah, we're really proud that he started his career at Leyton Orient, and obviously went on to do great things. But yeah, one of the greats for us.
Absolutely. So back to Saturday. Do you have a prediction? I don't like to do predictions, but people love hearing predictions. So what do you think? I know we've decided Drillin's going to score.
Yeah, I guess Drynan will score.
Drynan, sorry.
Do you know what? I did want to say that we actually owe you guys a lot, because in our promotion season in the National League in 2018-19, we had a really critical game right at the end of the season at your place where we really, really needed to win, and it was 1-1 going into the 90th minute, and then your reserve keeper who'd come on at half time, I think. Was it Worsley? I think his name was
Warner.
Warner.
He had been our first choice keeper. He played in the Arsenal match.
I mean, he inexplicably, after a back pass, tried to do keepy ups in front of his own goal, got the ball taken off him by our striker, Macaulay Bonne, had to bring him down, so it was a penalty, and which we scored, which gave us the 3 points that pretty much gave us the platform for the next couple of games to get promoted. So, to be honest, we owe you one. So I will predict that after Drynan scores and gets our hopes up at Brisbane Road, you will score another 2, probably both of them towards the 90th minute, and win the game.
Lovely. That will make the journey home a lot nicer. This is completely out of order, and I do apologise to everyone, because what I meant to mention when we were talking about the older players is you wrote a book on the Leyton Orient Greats. Was it called? Sorry.
Yeah, it's just called Leyton Orient Greats. It was interviews with 15 of our most sort of cherished players, and not necessarily the best players, because we have had some good players come through Orient, particularly at the end of their careers, but ones that sort of stuck with us, that were, had Leyton Orient in their heart. And I was like, Orient's in my family, so my dad and, the generation above him are all from East London, supported Orient. So for me, it was both fascinating and a sort of source of great pride that I talked to some of the players from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s that they all watched. And their stories are just brilliant. And, I am a little bit, dismissive about Orient's performance sometimes, but it's such a family club, and a club that so many of us sort of take to our hearts, and it means so much in the community. So actually doing that side of it was a real pleasure.
Yeah, it's really great to talk to some of the older players, because they are so up for it. I mean, we've got obviously our points in history, and the FA Cup match against Coventry all those years ago, and I've had one of our strikers, he played in the match, but he didn't score, Lenny Dennis, a couple of times, and I was actually talking to him in the week, and he was like, when are you getting me back on to talk about it? And I was like, probably in January, actually. But yeah, it's really nice for us to talk to those older players. So is that an online book or actual physical?
It's an actual book that you can buy.
Book, blimey.
That you can buy off Amazon. If any of your Sutton listeners also have a soft spot for Orient.
Lovely, perfect. Well, I will leave it. I've taken up a lot of your time because we had a lot of connection problems, but I've taken up a lot of your time, and I promise it'll only be a few minutes, and it's been a lot longer than that. So thank you very, very much. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you. Look forward to the game on Saturday. And also noticed, just scrolling through your tweets, you've had to change seats, have you? So you're not in your usual spot.
Well, I've been in the same season ticket, I think, since we built our new West Stand, so about 16 or 17 years. But yeah, my family group is expanding, so we needed a bit more.
They keep talking about where I stand, that they're going to possibly use that as one of the places they're going to upgrade, and I'm having kittens about it already. And I know it's way down the line. I'm like, I can't cope with this.
Well, we don't have change, do we, as football fans?
Absolutely not. I have to stand in our same spot. That cup run that I mentioned, I was leaving one of the matches because it wasn't going to actually walk out the door, but I was heading towards the gate, and just as I walked kind of past the goal line is when we sort of netted the winner, because I assumed it was going to go for a replay, and literally I was past the left-hand side of the post, and as the ball went in, I was like, so this is where I'm going to be standing for all the FA Cup matches from now on. And when we played Arsenal, I couldn't get there because people had been there like 2 hours before, and I couldn't get to my usual spot, and no one would listen to reason. Thinking, no, I need to stand here. Do you understand? Anyway, lovely to chat to you. Obviously, good luck for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday and when we play you at home. But other than that, have a great season.
No, and you guys, and it's great to see you guys up in League Two, and yeah, I'm sure you're enjoying it, and yeah, you're doing well. So yeah, look forward to carrying on playing you.
No, hadn't forgotten, don't you worry. This week, it's not strictly a pub, it's a bar. But if you think I'm re-singing that jingle, you have got another thing coming. Mark Bravy's choice this week is the Leyton Orient Supporters Bar. Access from Oliver Road. He says it's garlanded with awards for the range and quality of his beers, and it's the only place to be before kick-off. The home fans who get chatting in here are not the sort that booed Tommy Wright a few seasons ago. So if you're planning on a pint up there, you can always go to the Leyton Orient Supporters Bar just before the match.
And joining me now as my next guest is Craig. Hello, Craig. Tell us a bit about yourself. Essentially, who are you?
Good evening, Mike. I'm Craig. I'm from the Mansfield Matters podcast, so a long-time Mansfield Town fan. Obviously, a few connections between the clubs, really, but very similar to yourself. I've got Mansfield Town, whereas you've got Sutton United, of course, at heart. I've got Mansfield Town at heart. So two similar people, really, with podcasts and the clubs at heart.
And my listeners will be delighted to find out I've got yet another professional, someone who's been doing podcasting and broadcasting, I've just found out, for quite a while. So it's going to make all my Erdonums, which they all love, even better. Tell us about the podcast. How long has that been going?
So the podcast itself is now into its 5th season. There's quite a bit of a story behind it, really, although Mansfield Matters as a brand has been going since about 2010. So as you mentioned, I've got a bit of a broadcast background. I used to work in radio a long time ago, and to cut a long story short, I was with a commercial radio station who then stopped doing coverage of the club. I then moved to a community station and was lead commentator when the Stags were in the conference around 2010 time. So I used to commentate on each game, but we needed a brand for the show name, so we came up with Mansfield Matters because we were the only station that were covering Mansfield at the time, so Mansfield mattered to them, and that sort of thing. Quite cheesy, really. And we did commentary for a long time, including an FA Trophy final at Wembley, and then the season after playoffs, the season after that winning the league. Then I sort of parked it for a little bit, because when you move from the conference to the Football League, actually trying to cover live games becomes very costly very, very quickly. So we had to park it and didn't do anything for a while. And then I moved into a couple of different fields. And then 5 years ago now, 5 seasons ago now, I stopped being a producer, which I'd moved into for a while at the same commercial station that I was actually with when I very first started, and went back to watching games again. And there was no dedicated radio shows at that time. There were no dedicated podcasts. So myself and a couple of mates who I'd known for a long time sort of said, let's do it. Let's pull our resources together and put this podcast together. And every single week we've done a podcast, and more so over the last couple of seasons it's grown, particularly last year with lockdown out. Obviously everybody knows how difficult it was trying to watch games and things like that, especially at Football League level, when we had a whole season pretty much locked out. We couldn't go at all. We did a thing after every single game, called the Cool Down Post-Match Reaction Show, where instead of fans going to the pub and sort of sharing their opinions over a drink or a coffee or whatever, they did it online on our podcast, and the numbers soared and soared and soared, and we've sort of carried that on this year a little bit. So we now have 2 shows running simultaneously. We have the regular podcast in the week, and then probably 99% of Sundays we have something called the Sunday Sermon, which is very very similar, where we sort of rant and rave about the previous day's game. So it's quite a busy concept, and everyone seems to jump on board with it, which is fantastic from our point of view. As long as there are fans there that want to share their opinions and have their say, we will carry on doing it, because that's what it's all about. Sometimes radio stations for one reason or another don't have the time or the resources to provide dedicated coverage for a club, and that's where the podcast market's at, and that's why we're there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar, much smaller scale, but similar to what I've done is started the podcast because there wasn't anyone really. We had one fans blog, brilliant guys at Gandemonium, and that's pretty much all we've had. Obviously, we've got Twitter and all the other social medias, but there wasn't much dedicated. And talking of cheesy names, I've been criticised because this is Sutton United Talk Time on podcast, so it's SUTT on podcast. Sutton
I like
podcast.
it. Yeah, I like it. That's, I like the alliteration. It's quite quirky.
My brother, the very first thing he said is, "You're trying to be too clever again." So, yeah, okay. But yeah, no, it is brilliant. It's surprisingly easy how quickly you can get these going. I literally decided a few weeks ago, I'm going to start it again. And once I've made that decision and had a couple of people come on, I just went for it. So if anyone else out there listening, then obviously not Sutton or Mansfield, because you don't want to take away our audience. But
yeah, definitely not.
But yourselves on Twitter, your it's MTFC Mansfield Town Football Club Matters.
No, so it's just MTFC Matters for us on Twitter, just at MTFC Matters. Same on Facebook as well. Really simple to find us, and also the website mtfcmatters.co.uk. Similar to yourselves, we not only do we have the fan point of view, the fan conversations in the off season, we do have player interviews. We did a lot of that in lockdown to try and keep people entertained as well, and we've had ex-players, ex-managers, coaches, that sort of thing. Really insightful. And we've done a few charity nights as well. We did a Legends Live event a few years ago, and looking to do something again in the new year to raise. Initially, it was to raise money for Alzheimer's, but this time around, we're getting behind Mind, because if the last 20 months or so has shown us is that mental health really does matter, and that's a big part of the podcast for us as well, and for some of the supporters. I don't mind sharing this story, that the first game that I went back to this season, somebody came up to me and said, "I just want to thank you for taking the time to do the podcast last year during lockdown, because I live on my own and I go to football on my own sometimes, and it's difficult to try and connect with people, and your podcast helped do that, and that was a really good thing for me." So if anybody is thinking of doing a podcast, they are really easy and simple to set up. Have a look into it and do it, because you won't regret it. And at the end of the day, if you can make somebody else's day, that's what makes it worthwhile. Football's just a game which binds us all together at the end of the day.
It is just a game, but it is that binding together. We've had a lot of Sutton. We've grown a huge amount last year or so with the number of fans there. It's insane, but there was a core for the last, 30 odd years been going, and there's a core of fans that you kind of know every single week. You say hello to, if they're not there, you notice, and they are, as one my guest described it, they're a family.
Yeah.
And then suddenly that was all taken away, and it was there were people who were on their own and they were struggling. So it is really, really good, and I do wish I had kind of done it. I was not in the right place myself to do it, but I kind of wish there was something that we could have thought about to do it. I know a few people did Zoom up or whatever it's called, and do things themselves, but yeah, I kind of wish we had thought to do something like this, but it's gone, so you can't dwell on it. But I'm just thinking of your Sunday sermon earlier in the season. They must have been quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I obviously love Mansfield, and I hate it when we lose and get a negative result, but if speaking from a content point of view, I love it when we don't do well, because the numbers drive up. But no, I genuinely think that's the thing with football anyway. But yeah, earlier in the season, when we were dipping off form a little bit, things weren't going well and people were getting involved. But I have to say, actually, on balance, since we've started doing well, actually, I'm quite surprised that it's sort of maintained a good balance. It didn't used to in the past. You could usually see a vast difference in numbers between when we weren't doing well and when we were doing well. And I can honestly say, touch wood, so far this time round, it's been quite balanced, and I think people are sort of getting to know what it's about now and having those balanced opinions and discussions, which is again what it's there for.
Yeah, I mean, I there was a game earlier in the season that I'm awful where I do really focus on Sutton, and I have a peripheral idea of other teams, but
likewise.
I'm like, this is Sutton. Oh, who are we playing? Bloody hell! But there was a game on Quest earlier, or it was highlights on Quest earlier in the season. I know Nigel came out and he was quite scathing about one of your players, which is rare for a manager to be so kind of personal about a particular.
I think you're forgetting who his dad is, really. I think when you grow up in that family, I don't think there's certain things which you can't inherit. I know the game you're talking about, and I know the defender as well, Elliot Hewitt.
He said he's his best mate or something.
Yeah, he said something like he must have played with at Grimsby. They must be really close mates because he's not putting a tackle in all game, which was absolutely hilarious at the time. But then Mr. Clough does have a tendency every now and again to lay into his players a little bit too much for our liking, especially the younger ones. But it's part and parcel of football. It's part and parcel of football management, and I guess it's with everything, especially in the the medium of interviews and things which can be clipped down. Context is key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you are going to be coming to us on Tuesday with a run of 5 wins. Well, I'm assuming you're going to beat Scunthorpe. So,
I mean, if we don't now, I'm blaming you, Mike. To be honest.
But you've had I'm having a very quick look. This is my research. I'm looking now. So you beat Tranmere 2-0. Which we beat them only 1-0 on Saturday. Sunderland in the Cup was a good one. And the Mega Money Newcastle under-21s. I know it's the under-21s and they've only just got Mega Money, but I'd be absolutely labouring that point. That looks like a great match.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that one, it was pretty much a different team as well, the Newcastle Under-21s game. The thing about that game was it didn't matter because both teams were out of the competition at that point, which was quite annoying from our perspective. I quite like that competition for the prize money it gives and the opportunity it gives the youngsters. Not everybody agrees with me on that one, I have to say. A lot of people think it's a pointless competition, but opinions again. But that game, no, it was a really good game. 6-3 it ended. We went behind, then got back into the game, and we were coasting for a while. Then we allowed them back in it, and got further ahead again ourselves. It was a good, entertaining game for the neutral. But I think that game, yes, we scored 6 goals and got a hat-trick for Danny Johnson, which was fantastic, a senior player, but it was more about the minutes for the younger players, that one. I think the more important results recently have definitely the game at home a few weeks ago when we sort of stopped the rot, and then the Sunderland game in the FA Cup. Everybody expected us to go there and get beat, but we put in a really good performance, and then more so actually Stevenage last weekend, because we have got a tendency to go to places and concede silly goals and make silly mistakes, and we didn't do that. We showed some professional play, we showed good endeavour to go and win that game, and for the first time pretty much in a long time we saw a lot more passion from the players, both on and off the pitch, especially at the full-time whistle, which is all any football fan wants to see. And you can sort of see now that with our players coming back into fitness and away from suspensions, that sort of thing, which that we're becoming much more stronger. One thing we perhaps people from the outside don't realise is that the massive run of poor results we had at one point, I think at the peak, 13 or 14 players missing, key players, first team players, through either injury or suspension, and that took a lot out of us, and we really struggled to find our feet. And fortunately now, touch wood, we are sort of starting to do that. It'll be an interesting game Saturday against Scunthorpe. Obviously they're scrapping for their lives, and then long trip to yourselves on Tuesday. You're at the other end of the table at the minute, and we don't quite know what to expect from you, which will be an interesting one. Yeah,
hopefully we're similar. We're mostly in an utterly bewildered state at the moment because we're very generally pessimistic bunch anyway, and then we've come into the Football League. We seem to be doing very, very well, and we can't quite work out why. That's not to take anything away from the players or Matt. They're obviously done brilliantly, but it's a very strange state of affairs to be looking at us at that end of the table with 26 points already, where we'd be targeting 50 straight away to say at least we're staying in the division. But they seem to be doing really, really well, and they've got this togetherness
You're saying 14 players injured. I think we would struggle there. We've had a good few out, but I think we're talking 4 or 5, and that had a huge toll on us. But they're kind of coming back now. There's a good feeling around the place. There was a Tranmere fan on Saturday had come back on the same train, and I can't remember the exact wordings, but it was along the lines of, it's really hard not to like Sutton when you see this. The players came off the train and they were serenaded by the fans coming back.
Wow.
He said it's basically, this is a club that is all pulling in the same direction, and it's like you sit there going, yeah, that's us. So it's difficult to kind of resonate my little club being in this league with lots of big clubs, but we are, and we're doing all right. Love to be able to tell you which player to look out for, but
well, I could tell you, because he's one of ours. He's one of our own, in Alistair Smith, who I think has done absolutely fantastic for you guys, hasn't he? Since we let him go, we've missed out there, I think.
Unbelievable. He kind of joined, and he's sort of tall, langy fella, and you're like, okay, I can see there's some prospects there. He looks nice and tidy, and then Harry Buteman got injured, one of our main players, and as Matt has said in many interviews, has been his best player almost since he took over, and he got injured, or COVID I think he got, and so Alistair Smith had to come in and just literally has hit the ground absolutely running, and everyone's kind of looking around going, this guy, what's going on here? Oh, I wish he could have a couple goals to his game as well. That would be nice. And in the next match, he went out and scored 2 goals. So he's done brilliantly. Then he kept Harry out of the side, and Eastie got injured. So Harry came back in, and Alistair Smith was his partner. So he's had a nice run in the team. And Eastie's literally just come back from injury. So he's actually been partnered with a few other players, which you could kind of tell that he didn't have almost his senior partner with him, but still he's played every pretty much every match from almost the start of the season. Probably could do with a rest at some stage, but he's been absolutely amazing, and a brilliant find. Sorry,
he's an absolute top boy as well. Obviously, I know him a little bit more personally from my previous job, and when he was PFA Community Champion, I worked with him a little bit. Really good off the pitch, really good attitude. A little bit unlucky from his perspective at Mansfield, because he had, the period where we had 3 or 4 different managers and really couldn't get a settled look in. But he's got a good history as well. He's a really good ball player, and that comes down to his futsal background. Actually, I think he represented England at futsal, which is a young age as well, which is really good. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think we'll be looking back now and sort of regretting not letting him go for a few extra quid. But we wish him very, very well. And apart from Tuesday night, of course, and we always keep a lookout for him. It's really, really pleasing to see him absolutely thriving, because he's absolute class. Whenever he played for us in the cup games, or when he got a little look in off the bench or whatever, he always gave 110% and had a really good attitude. So, for you guys, maybe in the future, come January or the summer, I don't know how long he's on his contract, but he maybe could net you a couple of quid as well, because he's very capable of playing in the league above.
Well, the transfer window is something that's actually given me sleepless nights already, because, as I say, we've got this real squad togetherness, and I kind of look thinking, oh God, I keep forgetting about this, because we're kind of ready for our players to stay the whole season. I'm hoping they've kind of all agreed to that they're going to do this season and see where it takes us. But they've got also great examples with Craig Eastman, who used to be at Arsenal. He then moved on to, I think it was Colchester, and it just became a situation where face didn't fit. He went to another couple of clubs, and he was actually going to be walking away from football at one stage, and someone persuaded him to come and train down at Sutton, and he ended up joining us and has been an absolute hero for us ever since. He did have a chance a couple of years ago after the cup run to move away, and we historically won't stand in a player's way, and he just basically said, no, you know what, it's about the football, it's not about the money, it's not about this, I'm enjoying myself here, why would I want to leave?
And that's your answer of why you're doing so well so early doors, because the Football League can be a toxic environment sometimes, and when you come up from the conference, you can either go one or two ways. You can either sink or swim. And I think the club mentality, which you guys seem to have from the outside, is, you're this small, with the greatest of respects, community club, which seems to pull together for everyone. And, you're enjoying this journey which you're on. And, deservedly so. You've put in a good shift over the last couple of years to really dig your heels in. And, you look at the clubs which have done it in previous years and come from the conference, and nobody had ever given a second thought to in terms of being a Football League side, and are absolutely flying now. You look at, who'd have thought maybe 15 years ago that Fleetwood would be a Football League club regularly competing, Burton before that, and it's possible. And I think that mentality says a lot about those players which you've mentioned, who come in and thrive under a certain manager. It's no secret that the teams that are doing poorly have got bad dressing rooms, and it's difficult to get a hold of that. You've started on a crest of a wave, and I think if you keep that togetherness up, it could be a good season. You guys will be under no illusions that at some point you will hit a bit of a rocky period of form, and you'll drop off a little bit. But by starting as early and as strongly as you have, that stands you in good stead, and who knows where the journey might take you.
God, don't say that. Bruce will be having nightmares. Because one other thing is, because we didn't have an awful lot of choice. I don't think we would have chopped and changed an awful lot. We didn't have an awful lot of choice, because obviously any money that we got for going up was earmarked already for the improvements and the change of the pitch. So we didn't have that whole thing of where clubs come up and then suddenly they bring in 6 or 7 new players, which I always find odd anyway, because that must disrupt everything that you've got going on. We've managed to keep that nice team mentality, and it is, people will be bored of me saying this, it's funny to see it on social media when the players are interacting with each other. It's almost like watching your mates at a Sunday league level, because they do take the piss out of each other quite a lot. It's very, very nice to see. If you're childish, but hey, never mind, I'm a child at heart.
Aren't we all?
Exactly. So what we'll do is, thank you very much for that. Hopefully you do get the points against Scunthorpe. I'll be nervous now watching that. But hopefully you don't enjoy the trip to Sutton too much. And I very much thank you for your insight and your contribution. Thank you very much.
No, absolute pleasure. Wish you guys all the best for the rest of the season, obviously, apart from when you visit the One Call and on Tuesday night. Much looking forward to coming down, of course. I've never been to your guys' ground before, so it's a new ground for me to tick off, so I'm looking forward to it. Shame it's on a Tuesday night, though, because we'll probably get back at 3 a.m. I've got to be up for work at 6, so cheers, guys. Cheers, fix your list.
It's a proper old lady ground. It's proper... I get modern stadiums. I'm not stupid, but when you look around Sutton's, you can kind of really see that the history. This bit was built then. This bit was built then. This bit's been built now. So it's like a proper old lady. It's been a non-league club for 100 odd years. So it's not perfect, but it's brilliant.
It's yours. It's not perfect, but it's yours.
Yeah.
That's the line you need, my friend. That's the line you need.
Exactly. We love it. All right. Take care. Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. Thank you to all my guests, Dan, to Matt, and to Craig. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the time with everyone, both the guests and you guys for listening. If you have any comments, please catch me on any of the socials, which is at Sutton Podcast, or email, which is suttonpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
United! United! United!